What's up, guys? Welcome to Couple Nurses Podcast with your hosts, myself, Peter Fundera, and Matt Swadrick. Hope you guys are having a good day. This is a podcast where we tackle current health news and hot nursing topics, one conversation at a time. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give us the 5 stars, give us the like, download episodes. Keep hanging out with us, guys.
Welcome, guys. For those that are returning and those that are new, ¿cómo estás? We're going to have a good time here today on today's episode where we're going to talk about food allergies in America and its main culprits of what's causing the food allergies. And also we're going to talk about inducing labor at 41 weeks for being a healthier option for the baby. Correct, BD?
Yes, that is correct. So there's some research going on that inducing labor might be a little bit healthier than waiting past the 41-week mark for the baby to come out by itself.
And this was like a Swedish study that took, I don't know how many babies here, but I think the research study was stopped after a certain amount of time because 5 babies ended up dying that weren't induced, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the study, I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure what the number was. I forgot what the number was, but it basically compared the health of the baby between doing the full labor, so going into post-term labor being 42 weeks and greater versus inducing labor at 41 weeks. So it's actually studies show that there wasn't any change on a woman's health, though the mom's health at all, but the health of the baby, it showed a decrease in things that you would expect from a post-term birth. I mean, post-term birth complications aren't super common, but they do occur. So the study was just examining if inducing labor a little bit sooner would have helped out the baby.
Yeah, these people are the studies showing that there's a bunch of risks involved with having a baby past the 40-week mark. And some of them could develop infections. They have breathing issues. I think some of the risk factors that we talked over, one of them is being a stillbirth. So that means that the baby just died in the womb spontaneously. And it could lead to a few things, meaning they're so constricted in where they are in the womb that they have breathing difficulties. They also have marcosomnia, which is basically the baby's larger than the birth weight, right? I always get confused. Like OB sucked for me when I was in nursing school. I never could figure out the proper weight of the baby, or the average.
Yeah, OB was rougher for me too, just because. I mean, I think it's probably harder for the guys for the most part. I did enjoy like the NICU and stuff, but it was definitely harder for me to get that concept in my head of the birth, because we don't really go through it, and that's something we're really like taught about like in our life. Like, women usually talk to their moms about these kind of things compared to like a son. But yeah, but there is a few, like Matt said, risk factors for late term birth. And Matt said, the baby's gonna be bigger. It's just baby's there in the womb bigger, so it's probably gonna be more complicated birth. And one of the main issues is that it leads to more C-sections, which obviously we know is not a natural birth. And I know people are doing not like elective C-sections. It's like a new trend coming up too, where people are doing elective C-sections because it does less damage to like their sexual organs, or for whatever reason. Maybe it's the pain. I'm not sure what the logic is with it, but I know there's a big pop in C-sections compared to how much we were doing like 10 years ago, or even like 5 years ago.
It probably is easier for the woman to give birth. I mean, technically she's still giving birth, but the C-section makes it a lot easier. I'm not too sure. We should get a health expert out on this one. Another complication of that, having the fetus past 40 weeks, is something called post-maturity syndrome. So basically what happens is the fetus stops like living. It stops getting the same amount of nutrients that it needs to develop. And eventually it leading to malnourishment because of the placenta not delivering the nutrition. So that's another reason why after 40 weeks, it starts becoming a serious thing, and that could lead to complications. And there's also something called meconium, which sometimes leads to having the meconium, which is the baby's first bowel movement, correct? It tends to get put into the lungs and could cause a serious breathing problem after birth.
Yeah, so I wonder what the future is gonna show, because this was like a smaller study. Of course, had to be stopped due to babies dying of the non-induced group. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe a few more studies that are gonna be done, and you never know. We're gonna be coming there for like a elective birth instead of like a natural birth. That'll be interesting to see down the line for sure.
I think. Do you think it's healthier? Well, for sure, it's healthier to have the baby post probably than premature, preemie. But I still think that there's a lot of complications based on like what they're saying here.
Complications
C-section
for mm.
complications meaning there's more complications having a preemie baby than a baby that's like postpartum.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. The complications for a premature baby are like a lot more drastic than it is like a post-term baby. Like these issues don't happen very often, but they're still kind of prevalent. But yeah, for preterm labor, your baby's not even ready to come out, so obviously that's gonna be a lot more significant, especially like I know a few weeks leading up to the 39-week mark and a 40 mark, the baby just starts to fully have its own heart, and especially lung issues I think are the main issue for preemie babies. So lungs and the heart are still developing, by 38 and 39 weeks.
it's also interesting how, like, when we run codes in like the hospital for regular patients, usually they're related to like heart things or respiratory. But when it comes to kids and like infants, not infants specifically, but for peds patients when it comes to coding, usually they're always related to respiratory issues.
Yeah, haven't done it with any kids and since clinical, so I'm not sure. What are the youngest people you've had on your unit, like in California and in Lagrange or in your other hospital? Sorry.
Well, in Cali, we don't have any peds at all here. So I think when it came to me working at Lagrange, I think the youngest one was like 15. And it was just like an abdominal, it was appendicitis. So it wasn't anything serious. Like I've never really taken care of a kid, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Same goes for me. It's been a pretty long time since we dealt with kids.
So we definitely need to
So
get a peds nurse on here just to kind of talk about the experience about kids and the differences. I would really enjoy that because I wouldn't be able
yeah,
to
you
personally handle kids.
right. Yeah, you do have a certification where you can deal with kids, don't you? I believe you like, did it one time,
I had the PALS,
or
yeah.
am I
So
just
for the
mistaken?
unit that I needed to work at the PALS, which is pediatric pediatric life support, basically.
And was that a hard class to do?
It's it's a little bit more involved. So like how you're pushing medications, for example, you're giving epi or you're giving different kind of medications for a code. For peds patients, you like take out this tape measure and you're basically measuring the height of the kid, and based on that, you're giving weight-based medication.
Huh. That's pretty interesting.
So it's a
So you
little
literally
bit different.
you literally bust out like a tape measure and you measure it like while the kid's coding or whatever.
Don't quote me on this one, man. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when we're in the class, because I never ran a full PEDS code like a real one, but the mock one, that's how we were doing it. Yeah, there was different protocols,
Okay.
basically.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. I guess in case I have a like someone's kid code on a unit, I guess. But yeah, no
If you're
kids. Probably like 4 or 5 years. I haven't had a kid.
if you're in Disney and something's going down, they'll grab an AED, be like, "Someone grab me the pediatric measurement freaking tape." Then you could troubleshoot the code.
Yeah. There you
Alrighty,
go. Want
let's
to move on
jump
to
in.
allergies?
Yeah, let's jump into allergies and what causes them. So for those that don't know a lot about the immune system that are not nurses here in the podcast, we'll kind of go into the explaining the nitty gritty, and they'll go into like the heavy stuff. Just kind of break it down like that. When it comes to food allergies, we all have an immune system that like fights off infections and anything that's dangerous to us. It basically takes care of business, right? But when it comes to a food allergy, your body is technically overreacting to something that you consumed, and it's causing triggers that actually might be dangerous to you, which are those protective responses. So this is a allergy immune system attack on of your own body technically, which could cause, symptoms such as hives, shortness of breath, wheezing. So those are the basic ones and very, very standard, mild. Sometimes your tongue could swell, and then it gets to something more serious.
Yeah. So the serious one is called anaphylaxis. That's when you actually need to go in the hospital and get that taken care of. A lot of times, people that have food allergies, they carry something called an EpiPen with them because when you go into an anaphylaxis, body just constricts. It constricts your bronchioles, and you're eventually not being able to breathe. So you got to get the EpiPen to relax your body, which actually is adrenaline, which is kind of opposite of, if you think of relaxing, adrenaline's kind of more like a pump, you could say, but it dilates your vessels and it allows you to breathe again. So why we are talking about this is because food allergies have been on a pretty big rise over the last couple of years, especially food allergies like to peanuts. Since 1997 to 2011, food allergies have risen more than 50%. And in that same time span, peanut allergies have more than tripled in children. So we're not exactly sure what's going on, and we're not doing anything different to the peanuts. And these people are developing these allergies, and we're not really sure why and what's going on.
It's interesting how, because we're kind of born into like a more European culture from like the way we were raised. It's interesting how we didn't hear about having like a food allergy or like a peanut allergy. I wonder if the way we were raised, what we were exposed to, like the stuff that our parents gave us, caused a difference in that, where like the friends that we knew didn't have any kind of little allergies.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe just exposure kind of thing. And I don't know. I'm not sure my parents ate peanuts when I was, in utero, or what the difference was, because my parents aren't big fans of peanuts to begin with. So I can't see them eating peanuts very often. But I have no idea, is it because we were kind of exposed to like the farm environment when we were younger, or
That Yeah, that's
I'm
what I
not
was
sure if
kind
it's
of
our
getting at.
genetics.
Not so much, eating peanuts, but just like playing in the mud, um, drinking milk that was actually made like directly from like cows. It wasn't like pasteurized. So I kind of like that. Just little things like that. I wonder if it made a difference.
Yeah, yeah, you never know. But I mean, over right now we'll talk about a few things. I guess the main ones I found about on the internet that kind of are linking allergies to humans is basically a vitamin D deficiency, gut microbes, breastfeeding, and something called like a hygiene hypothesis too. So, and of course, genetics probably plays a giant role in this as well. But we're not really still 100% sure on what's going on. So this is more about optimizing your health, just to kind of have a chance of preventing this. And I mean, other sources of vitamin D, oily fish, salmon, tuna, sardines, they're also high rich in vitamin D, but I mean, sun is your best option. Of course, you could take like supplements from vitamin D. So, I mean, if you are pregnant, you should definitely not be deficient in any kind of vitamins, but you should definitely take on your vitamin D, not just for the allergy purposes, but also it helps with the immune function as well.
Great one there, Peter. I think it sounds a lot better. I went through like a little lag switch where you're just kind of like going in and out, and I didn't hear you that well. So, do you want to go into the next one after vitamin D deficiency? I think you covered that one very well.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Just going through lag. Okay. So the next one that we think is leading to a lot of food allergies is the gut microbe. And there's so much studies. We talked about it in and out, and they're basically saying that not consuming proper like microbe gut bacteria, and the gut bacteria gets affected by what you eat. It's like almost like gene regulation. So if you're eating specific foods, it's altering your gut microbe, and it's leading to different kind of things that could predispose you to a possible food allergy. And it's interesting because they did the Nagler study, the researchers, they were basically helping seeing the correlation between gut bacteria and the development of food allergies. Like they took like infant donors from like cows, they took mice. So yeah, unfortunately they're, you know, not being ethical to the animals. If you guys are against that, sorry about that one. But this study basically took sterile mice, they injected different colonizations of bacteria and fed them different foods and see how they reacted and how they suffered. And they were linking how there was a specific single bacteria, and the bacteria is called Clostridia common class they actually could find in kombucha. I'm pretty sure that bacteria had a lot to do with certain exposures to allergies and how the mice got affected.
Yeah, true. I mean, I don't know if they necessarily cause any kind of animal cruelty to them, because these mice, I mean, I'm sure they went on to live happy lives, but mice are the easiest thing for us to breed, because they go at it like crazy. So you get like a lot of mice, and we could genetically modify mice, I guess, fairly easily, because they just created a mouse that's has a sterile gut. Um, but yeah, it's pretty interesting that we actually injected human or baby gut microbes and we injected into this mouse and it produced the same allergies. So like Matt said, there's clear indication that gut health has to do something to do with this. But the thing is, how does that gut health develop? How does that gut biome, get created? Is it due to like the breast milk? Is it due to the mom's eating habits? Because this was gut bacteria from infants, from babies that aren't eating everything that adults eat. So now it's like, does the mom play a bigger role in this, or is it just the way the baby's gut develops? That's kind of like the next step for this. But this bacteria, the Clostridia, I think the exact one was Anaerostipes, Kake. That's what it's called. But bacteria was actually linked to a different allergy as well, not just peanuts. Like they did a previous study, and it showed that this bacteria fought off other allergies as well, which is pretty cool. Which means that this Clostridia bacteria is probably going to play a key role in developing allergies, currently or like in the future.
And this also like gives you the green light on, yes, the immune system is not only like systemic, it's actually located mostly in the gut. And we kind of talked about it, how like 80% of our immune system is located in the gut. And this kind of clarifies that, where, hey, if you're eating bad, it's causing different food allergies. When I was talking about the animal testing, I don't know how people feel about transferring gut bacteria from cows into mice. And, some people are very sensitive nowadays when it comes to animal testing and things like that. So I just gave a shout out on that one. And then there's also another hypothesis that talks about the gut microbe. And there was a study, it was like an article from the Genetic Engineering and Biomedical News. And it's saying that the Western lifestyle has a lot of risk factors that exposes us to having food allergies. One of them is being increased cesarean C-sections. So it kind of goes with our health news that we talked about. The other one is the decline of breastfeeding and the use of antibiotics. And for some reason, they quoted smaller family sizes. And those factors are disrupting the normal microbe in the gut, which is, preparing their immune system for chaos, technically, since we're not being exposed to the proper bacteria early in life. So that has some correlation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that they all factored together. But so far, we went over the vitamin D, and then the gut microbes, and a Matt went over breast milk cesarean sections and a family size. So the next one is pretty interesting. It's called the hygiene hypothesis. This hypothesis basically states that our environment has become cleaner, more filled with antibiotics that entirely make the environment healthier and more sustainable, but affects us of negatively and diseases. Our processes were able to, just because we're not exposed to as much negative antigens and antibodies that we used to do back in the day. It's lagging again.
Yeah, bro. I think you need better
Okay.
internet, to be totally honest.
Well, so hygiene hypothesis, yeah. So that's basically saying that the fact that we're not being exposed to as much as we used to, like kids are staying more indoors compared to going outside and playing in like the mud or playing sports, that they're not building up as big of a tolerance for these things as our parents did, or our grandparents. When they did go outside, they went outside to play in the snow and the cold. Now when it's snowy, we tend to keep our kids inside, and they're not exposed to all these things. Same with foods. Like we're not exposing everybody to all these foods because there's so much restrictions on these foods. You can't have peanuts in certain facilities. You can't have fish over here that people are just not exposing their kids to these foods. Especially now, I know over the news a couple weeks back there was a family that was vegan, and they ended up killing their. Well, they didn't kill them. Well, technically you could say they killed them because they're vegan and they fed their child a vegan diet, and they were able to get all the nutrients. So the kid actually got malnourished and ended up passing away from malnourishment because they decided to feed the kid a vegan diet instead of like a normal natural diet that you would eat every day. So this is just saying that exposure leads to adaptation, which causes less immune reactions to these allergies, or we know how to properly deal with peanuts. We don't develop allergies as often if we're exposed to things like that.
I like the breastfeeding versus the formula debate. So we were talking about how early exposure benefits a lot, and I've heard that day in day out how it's important to take the baby after gave birth and lay it on the mom's, chest, and that's all important. And it creates all these like, different neural stimulants for like development. But it's interesting how your moms or not moms, but the mother, it gives antibodies and different immune system function to the baby through the breast milk, which you will not get from formula. So there's different immune factors, antibodies, enzymes, and like white blood cells that I'm sure get transferred through the breast milk, and it exposes the baby early on to start developing an immune system. Or if the mom had, like, let's just say some kind of infection, your baby already has antibodies that they're going to receive because of like the transfer through breastfeeding. So I wonder if, I'm sure there's a correlation,
Yeah,
we just don't know exactly
right.
why.
Yeah, I'm completely agree with you on that one. Like, I'm all for breast milk. You don't get like those antibodies and antigens the same way as you do with compared to formula, which is just like you could say synthetically synthetically made, losing a lot of natural immune system cells that you get through breast milk, especially. So nutrition wise, you can get the same amount of nutrition from formula. You don't get immune function. A lot of those studies show that a lot of like immune cells are transferred over through breast milk, and your body has a better immune system if you drink breast milk compared to formula. So yeah, so now that we went over things that are kind of that you could prevent, so you could prevent yourself from getting allergies. Now we want to kind of go over things you can kind of do, like extra measures that you could take to maybe have your child not develop these allergies, or if your child does have allergies, this may help them if you want to get rid of them. I know peanut allergies are huge. Remember when I went to school, high school, and like grade school, I want to say maybe like one out of every 7 kids had a peanut allergy, I believe, or it was like one out of every 10, where we had designated tables for kids that had peanut allergies because like they were just so prevalent. And I know there was a time towards the end of my school year in grade school where we couldn't bring peanut products at all because kids just had peanut allergies and they didn't want to risk anything happening.
They didn't let you to bring in peanut butter. Wow. I'd be so upset.
Dude, I was so upset. Actually, I didn't like peanut butter back then as much as I do now, but if it would happen now, I'll be upset.
You'd pull out like the racist card,
The
like,
thing
what's
is, like
going on,
these,
guys? I can't bring peanut butter to school. Come on, get your mom in on strike and stuff.
right, freedom to eat what I want, whatever I want. But so one study that we looked at, it was actually a systematic review. So we looked at a bunch of studies on food allergies and kind of how exposure decreases the likelihood of these allergies. And actually, they looked at the maternal antibodies and immune system compared to like the infants, and actually showed that breast milk, like Matt said, breastfeeding helps prevent these allergies. But the thing is, the mom has to eat like a wide variety diet. So the mom would have to eat peanuts to prevent the peanut allergy because that's going to lead to early exposure. And they're also linking placenta, a transfer, like how your blood gets transferred from the mother to the baby in utero through the placenta. They're saying that that also assisted with allergy prevention if the mom ate a wide variety of foods in while having while carrying you to full term.
What I've been doing for myself too when it comes to like foods and stuff like that, I kind of had like the hay fever here and there when April started to like June, July. I haven't had it last year, which is interesting. But what I tried doing is I bought like honey, and try to eat it or have like a spoon with tea daily throughout winter. And supposedly all those exposures to pollen and everything, because of the honey, it led me to be less susceptible to getting like that flare up in like April, May. So technically that way of me doing it is like the first one that we're going to talk about, the oral immunotherapy, right? Where I was trying to give myself little doses of the exposure, which is technically pollen from the honey, to help decrease that trigger to stimulate that reaction.
Yeah, my mom actually told me about that. She's like, to get rid of allergies, just eat like a tablespoon of honey every day, in the wintertime. And then when spring comes, you don't get the allergies as much. That I've been doing that probably for like a couple of years now, and that works on and off. for sure decreased my allergies. I used to get them almost every year. Now, I don't always get them every year. Maybe every other or every third year I get them now. But it definitely helped. Like that was a solid advice my mom gave me with the spoon of honey. Yeah, but real quick before we go into the oral immunotherapy, I know the American Academy of Pediatrics at one point they recommended to not introduce peanuts in a diet up until like the age of I think 7 or 6. So they were saying that early exposure actually led to developing these allergies, but now they kind of refuted themselves and they're saying that early introduction of different foods is actually more beneficial than restricting certain foods up until later in life. So like now we kind of know that you're better off getting exposed earlier than later, just so you don't develop those food allergies in like the future. But I know some people are born with food allergies and some people develop them, because I know I had this one kid back in school where he wasn't born with food allergies. It just developed like at a certain age. I think he was like 6 or 7 that he's developed a food allergy for out of like legit out of nowhere, and ever since then he couldn't eat peanuts anymore. So it's kind of interesting to see that's not 100% genetic, but in certain cases you are born with it, and there's nothing you could really do about it. But the oral immunotherapy, that's probably one of the more popular ones. Like Matt said, it exposes you gradually to the food that causes this anaphylactic reaction, and over time you're able to get rid of it. I know getting rid of it doesn't happen very often. It kind of desensitizes you, so the reaction isn't as drastic. So instead of one peanut giving you anaphylaxis, you can eat a bag now and take like some anti-inflammatory drugs, and you could still be okay. You still get the reaction, but it's not as severe, and you could kind of tolerate more of those peanuts or that food that was causing that reaction in the first place.
I feel bad for the people that can't eat peanuts, man. But this is definitely a method that works with anything. You could try increasing your threshold, just like PD said. Let's go into the next one here, the epicutaneous immunotherapy, if I'm pronouncing that right. And that is like technology similar to like a nicotine patch, where you're putting the allergen on your skin and you're letting the allergen being absorbed in small amounts into your body. And theoretically, that exposes the immune system and it changes it to the way you want it to be, where you're not getting as affected. I've I have no experience or any research, but I have no idea if this works that well. Did you look anything into this one?
It doesn't work. I mean, yeah, a little bit. It was like mixed results. Like this is something still fairly newer compared to the oral one. I the one this epi patch thing. It's like a nicotine patch, so it gets absorbed a little more strongly. So, but it's still like fairly new. You obviously don't want to give out large amounts of this if you're not still sure of what's gonna happen. But as the same premise, the same idea as I just like the oral one. So over down the future, maybe you just put a patch on and just carry it with you throughout the day, and maybe you'll get desensitized from it. I know there's patches too that kind of actually I'm not sure if this is something super new where you put a patch on and it kind of makes you less allergic to this food. I'm not sure if it has like some kind of like adrenaline in it, but there was a patch where you put on and then you could eat a little bit of the food that you're allergic to. So I don't know if it's like a low dose of adrenaline or epi in there, but that was also something that I looked up online. It was pretty cool.
Maybe it
There's also
has.
something called the anti-IgE medication.
I
Go
said
ahead.
maybe it has a little bit of like antihistamines on the patch, which that's how I take my medication usually. Like I used to have such bad flare ups of like the hay fever where my eyes were just completely puffy, man. And I bought like the anti-immune not anti antihistamine drops, bro. That thing sucked my eyes dry like a mother, man. Could barely see anything. Like when I went to work or like when I was in school, I felt every single blink in my eye, man. It just dries up your eyes because, technically you make tears, right? But antihistamine blocks all those activities. So technically, the opposite of having watery eyes is dry eyes, and boy, it was dry. So after like a season of those eye drops, I couldn't do
Was
that,
it
man.
worth it though?
I mean, I was able to see better. Like my eyes were so puffy sometimes and swollen, and you know how you kind of itch yourself in the short term,
Mhm.
yes, it was worth it. But honestly, man, your eyes were so dry. I can't do that again.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't really do antihistamine drops very often. I just deal with the teary eye. But for my issue, I don't really get teary eye. It's more of me sneezing and runny nose. That's what kind of it gets me into allergies. But so for the IgE medication, the IgE immune cells, that's the one that's the one that's responsible for those anaphylactic reactions. That's the one that's responsible for these allergies. So it's actually pretty cool. They don't have um, a medication yet for people that have food allergies, but they do have one for asthma. It's called Xolair. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, but it's actually an anti-IgE antibody medication that's approved to actually treat and prevent moderate to severe asthma. So like this is definitely something in the right direction. I think Xolair has been out on the market for a while, so maybe the next step would be making something with food, and that would be pretty cool. Just taking like an injection every so often and not being allergic to a food, or not getting as severe reaction instead of doing the whole oral therapy stuff where that takes years and years compared to like a one shot sub Q every so often.
And these are the same antibodies that are given to the IgE. Those are the same antibodies that are given to people with myasthenia gravis, I believe, where the immune system is kind of attacking itself. So you're replacing the immune system to kind of not be as sensitive to what's causing you to have these like autoimmune attacks.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens in the future. This is something also new that there is a few studies with this in food, but not enough to make like a solid conclusion. But it does work with asthma. So maybe next 10 years down the line, maybe we'll think of something. Maybe someone's going to get a sub-Q injection for the peanut allergy compared to not eating peanuts anymore.
And I'm looking at all these like therapies, and everything is basically trying to treat the symptoms of your immune system, right? And I know we kind of talked about different things that are causing the immune system to like flare up. But yeah, like people have to start taking a look at like, are you eating these foods that are causing this to happen? Like what's causing your immune system to be so inflamed and like not be communicating properly? Because that's all it is. Like your immune system is technically not communicating right within itself, and it's causing these flare ups. So why is your immune system not talking properly, man? That's the $1 million question a lot of people can't answer. I don't know if it's from household products or the stuff that you're eating, or is it the oils that we're consuming so much? We got to get some doctors on them ASAP here. Talk about this. I think PD might be going through some lag.
Yeah, but I guess we'll leave you off with like one tip. Yeah, so we'll leave you off with like one tip because I'm not sure why this lag is going on. But for the most part, try to expose yourself and like your kid to as much food as possible. I mean, they're not gonna know how to deal with it unless they ingest it into their body, and your everything might be better off if your kid is allergic to something. Better off knowing it sooner than later, compared to them being in like their like 6-year-old picnic, and then they have a peanut, and then they're going to an anaphylaxis reaction at like a park instead of at home. So yeah, try to expose yourself and your kid to as much variety of foods as possible, and make sure your gut's healthy. Make sure you're taking enough vitamin D. Folic acid also very important for pregnant women.
And I think that summarizes it very well. And get that physical activity, get that bacteria flowing properly. Take a probiotic if you have to as well. I don't know if you mentioned that one, or consume things that have high probiotics like Greek yogurt and your milks. I don't know if people are dairy free, just depends on your take. I like my almond milk, but that's a great summary, PD. You want to wrap up the show?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we just wrapped it up already, but I see the sun's going on your face.
It is,
so your
man.
Face is getting
it's
brighter.
hitting me right there.
You got like 3 lines.
Right there in the eye.
And then I'm not sure how long this lag is going to be going on. So, I mean, we'll probably just end it. I hope you guys have a good day. If you guys have any questions, let us know. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Check us out on YouTube for any of this information that you guys want to look into. It's all available on our show notes. I know it was a little laggy, so feel free to go more in depth into the studies. They're all in the show notes. Everything's on the show notes, guys. So just stay with us. Come check us out. See you next Friday.
Smash the 5-star, guys. Have a great day.